Welcome, everyone, to another episode. I am super delighted to be with you as always, and I have a very special guest with me again. And today I have David Kahn, that I think we met each other online recently, or we connected over true sidereal astrology, cosmic human design, and things like that. I think you commented somewhere. I had also seen some posts of you in some of the cosmic human design groups, so I was a little bit familiar. And I was like, hey, why not have a conversation? Because my audience loves to talk about cosmic, true sidereal, all these things. So welcome, David. And also please go
Thank you.
ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Annalena, for having me, for hosting me on the podcast. I've run my own podcast in the past, so I love chatting with people, and I've just discovered the joy of conversations around shared values and shared, bits of inspiration. And I feel like this whole realm of true sidereal is just beginning to blossom right now because we're at a very important point in history when I feel like this is going to become even more prevalent as the years go by.
Yeah, so I agree with you. And it's funny because I didn't plan to go through sidereal or anything, but following my human design led me there. So that's what I
Yeah.
always tell people. I would love to hear your story from,
Okay.
I mean, with human design in particular.
Yeah, let's
Like,
yeah.
how's it been? Did you do tropical first and then true sidereal? Like, I want to know it all.
It's a story. So the evolution of my last 6 or 7 years has been closely linked with my discoveries in human design and astrology. So I've been on a path of esoteric studies since the age of 19. You could say I kind of woke up early, but I studied more traditional, like Vedic paths, and I did a little bit with astrology and tarot for a number of years. But in 2018, I woke up one day and I'm like, I have to quit my job. I was working as an environmental consultant. It was a fun job. I mean, I got to travel the world. I was protecting groundwater, but it was very much in the corporate world. And it was around the same time that I discovered my first human design reading. And at the time, I learned, hey, I'm a reflector. And then I learned reflectors are pretty rare. They're 1% of the population. And not only that, but how important my environment was. So up until that point, I've been spending a lot of time in work camps with sort of, real salt of the earth men that, work on machinery and they work a lot. Sometimes they work for 28 days straight. So not a lot of a social life. And I was wondering why I felt so dull often and I felt tired often, even though I was really trying to keep up with my health and my own studies. And I realized just how important my environment was. So around that time, I made a decision. I'm like, well, I'm going to leave Canada and I'm going to go travel to the places that would make my heart sing. So I moved to Australia and then I moved to Bali. And needless to say, the world opened up. I'd kind of fallen in with the right crowd. I began to meet very interesting people that shared a lot of the same kind of values, and I got immediately swept up in interesting projects. And I think that is a facet of being a reflector. Is that a reflector, even if you don't have the experience per se, if you have the will or the desire or the drive, you just place yourself in the right room and the opportunities open up. Reflectors tend to have this ability to kind of say what is on everybody's mind. They're thinking, but maybe not saying. And so being able to do that allowed me to participate in things in which I didn't necessarily have all the experience. For instance, I got started with a brainwave entrainment startup just because I showed up and I was keen and I was asking the right questions and that type of thing. So that was really cool. I actually became an astrologer and a human design analyst shortly after that because I'm like, wow, this changed my life. I've loved astrology for the last 20 years. I'm going to do this for other people. I'm going to help other people understand themselves better. So I did that. And last year, in 2023, even despite the fact that I was on this amazing journey in all these tropical countries, I kind of hit a point in my life where I was running a marketing agency for holistic brands and it wasn't going very well. I was overworked. I had a team going at the time and it wasn't as functional as I would have wanted it. And I kind of hit this point in life where I'm like, I'm kind of at one of those dark night of the souls.
Mm.
And funny enough, I was doing a visa run from Bali and I went to Singapore. And a fellow I know that in Singapore, he actually runs these seminars for thousands of people in Southeast Asia and Australia. And he said, we're meeting up for coffee and he pulls out his laptop. I'm like, I thought we were just catching up. Like, why are you pulling out your laptop? He's like, I've got to show you something. He's like, 3 years ago, you gave me my first astrology reading. And within that month, a number of uncanny things happened to me. And I go, okay, cool. What kind of uncanny things? He's like, well, first I met Athen Chimenti, and he showed me that there's this other zodiac out there called the True Sidereal. And I'm like, what? I had heard of True Sidereal, but I've been a tropical astrologer. So I suspended my judgment because tropical astrologers can be very nitpicky about Ophiuchus. You know, they don't like
Yeah,
Ophiuchus. And I
that's the
kind of fallen
thing.
in with that crowd, but I'm like, okay, I'll listen to him.
Mhm.
So he shows me my true sidereal chart, and I'm looking at it and I'm starting to interpret it. And I was, soul searching at the time because I hadn't been going through a very easy point in my life. And then he showed me he's quite intuitive, and he said, check out your Chiron here. And so my Chiron had changed. It was previously at the end of Taurus, and it was like now in the middle of Taurus. And he's like, now check out the gene key gate this corresponds with. So we did a little bit of sleuthing. I found out, he showed me cosmic human design. He had met Richard Mason, apparently, showed me cosmic human design. So I said, okay, it's in gate 3. And then gate 3, what that translates to in the gene keys. And as I read the gene keys, it was like the whole thing went like it all made sense. And being an astrologer, I look at the houses. So it was in the house, it was in the 7th house of relationships and business and long-term contracts. And it was had to do with chaos, ordering, the gate of ordering. So chaos, innovation, and innocence. And there was just something that struck me at that time. Like it was like I entered into kind of like a peak experience almost. And I said, holy geez, this is really giving me a lot of very precise and timely information right here, right now. And the meeting alone lasted an hour, but I knew exactly what to do with everything he showed me. So I went home, and for the next 5 days after that, I sat and I started mapping out all these different placements. And coming from an astrology background first, I want to look at the planets, the 7 major planets, the sun through Saturn. And I started looking at that in terms of my life themes, and everything started to make sense. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is what I really needed. It's like, yeah, tropical human design astrology showed up at a time in my life where I needed my first change. And then this showed up at a time where I needed to take off another layer and really kind of reveal what's under the hood. And
Mhm.
the other thing, I'll just finish on this. The other thing I noticed, though, that came through at that time was that instead of making it like a chart, I could make it like a journey. And that's where I sort of developed Trifecta. And especially one of the reasons why I call it that is because whatever this is, this true sidereal approach, I feel like, human design is still really good and it's still valid, but that there is a different way to look at things. And that if we try to call it cosmic human design, it can get confusing for people because they think, oh, in cosmic, I'm this, and in tropical, I'm this. It works for some people, and I can reconcile that difference myself. But I've had a lot of people come to me and go, well, what does it mean that I've become a manifester now when I thought I was a projector? And so I said, well, this is a different journey altogether.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I have to say, I had a very, very similar experience. I loved human design, the tropical, right? That's what we
Mm-hmm.
out there. I'm a 2 for manifesting generator on that chart. And it was for me the whole thing being multi-passionate because I always
Mm-hmm.
questioned that part of myself to really give myself permission to try things out, to experiment, especially as a fairly new entrepreneur, was life-changing with that. Also the 2 for profile. And then when True Sidereal came into my life, so for me, I was working with some people in a mastermind as the coach, and they kept bringing up Sidereal astrology, first the regular Sidereal. And I was like, okay, well, I'm open to it. I'm not like, I don't know everything. But before I know, when first human design came, I wasn't even interested in the beginning because I
Mm-hmm.
studied with Karen Parker and she brought up Sidereal a couple of times, talked about it. And I was like, I not even want to hear about it. And she's not using it, but it was there and some people were using it. So I knew it. And with the Sidereal, the regular version of Sidereal, which you can also have in genetic matrix, I was like, maybe, but I had emotional authority. I was like, that's definitely not me. And I was like, some things resonate, but something wasn't fully there. And then I think I did a little bit of research. I went into YouTube. I started to search for True Sidereal or Sidereal in general. And then I found a girl and she was talking about the cosmic human design. And then I saw some videos with Richard Mason. So went down the rabbit hole. Then, of course, through that, I found Ethan. I actually studied with him now. So I the one-on-one with him, which was amazing. And with that, astrology was the first time ever that astrology really resonated with me. Because with tropical, I have to say, I was always like, yeah, well, maybe, and okay. But it wasn't this like, okay, how does this know all of this about me? So that's how I followed true sidereal astrology. And then, of course, I was like, well, it also made sense. Like, of course, like I want to know what's in the stars. I was actually shocked that I didn't know that what we use in tropical astrology, it's not what is actually in the sky if I look up straight. So for me, it was in a way common sense. Well, I want to align with nature, not with something we fixed over 2000 years ago. And the way Ethan explains it is just very straight to the point, very logical, really makes sense. And obviously, right, we're still humans, we still calculate it in some way, you know, and this can even take time. But yeah, somehow my sequel, and then I became a 5-1 generator, and but very different centers defined, and especially with the centers, I feel much more aligned with it. And like you say, it was like at some point the tropical chart was part of my journey. That's exactly what I needed. Then it became the cosmic human design, or the true sidereal version of human design, which I like. I actually want to elaborate on this a little bit more, where you say, well, people are confused because people are already confused with all the stuff in human design, all the gates, the channels, the types, right? And now we have cosmic human design. It's still human design, right? It's just a different way, like you say, to look at the chart.
I can elaborate this. Actually, there is an image I want to share. If you will, let me
Yeah.
share my screen. It has nothing to do with the body graph, because before the body graph, there's something that's even more foundational, and it's something where actually true sidereal and normal human design agree on fully. So, if you let me share, I can show you exactly what this is. This is actually the latest area where I've been diving deeply into, because for whatever, I like the big stuff happening. And this here is an image of the Great Cycle. So this is the Earth's body graph, you could say. And you've probably seen this before, right? With the locks and the keys. And this is the coming shift in 2027. So it's a bit of a complicated image here, but essentially what it's showing is where the sun rises on the spring equinox, and that changes by 1 degree every 72 years.
Yeah.
We get 2 incarnation crosses. We get the cross of planning and we have the cross of Maya. And of course, we're right here. The sun is rising, you know, at whatever, I think it's 9 or 11 degrees Pisces, and it's going to be going into gate 55. Now, this is a sidereal chart. And even in human design, this is a sidereal calculation. The difference is when you get to the individual level, for some reason, they go into a tropical body graph. Whereas I'm like, well, what if we kept it sidereal? Why don't we just compare apples to apples? Anyway, so this chart is where everything aligns. But when this happens, this is where we're going to be making a massive shift. It's already happening, by the way. This shift from the cross of planning and the cross of Maya into the cross of the sleeping phoenix and the cross of penetration, this is going to be the big global shift. And it's night and day. We're going from a tribal society into one that is very individualistic. But for me here, this is the beauty of it, because this is sort of the background frequency behind everything else that happens. And as human beings, I'll stop sharing so we can be a bit more personal, but as human beings, if we are not conscious of our actions, then we just basically get swept up into that background frequency. And the most challenging thing that can happen is when there's an outgoing theme and an incoming theme, and we're bought into the outgoing theme. So if we're bought into institutions, if we're bought into collective agreements, and we're bought into exploring the mysteries and going deeper and deeper and deeper into things, in the next 3 years, we're going to be in for a very crude awakening as the background frequency fully shifts and it goes into a completely new program. And so what human design attempts to do, normal human design, is it basically says, well, If you stop listening to the external program and instead you listen to your inner authority, you will fit in cleanly with the transitions in the background program. And what I believe True Sidereal does is True Sidereal says, well, actually, if you follow this, which is not, it doesn't have the influence of the obfuscation of the Earth's own programming. If you step into your cosmic layer, then you're free. You're free to do what you want. And you can choose how you want to interact with that background frequency. You can watch it like a movie. You can participate consciously as best you want to, but you're not bound by the same number of laws as if you are trying to fit in with this layer of normal human design, which basically has these additional I don't want to say constraints, but you're kind of locked in more with what's happening on the earth. With cosmic human design, it's like you're free to be a cosmic co-creator.
And I love it because Gate 55, especially in the Gene Keys, is all about freedom.
Oh, it's a beautiful one. I love reading that one. That one, just reading it brings me so much peace.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that no matter what's going on in the world, we shouldn't get caught up complaining or blaming.
Oh yeah.
That's for me, that's the big thing, because I think we all do it either internally. We complain about life being hard or life not giving us what we want. But we realize so much more abundance when we step out of complaining or blaming in that axis.
Yeah.
And we just
I
say,
mean,
oh, it's all
that's
here.
also what I've been studying Kabbalah more recently. It talks a lot about it. And also the Gene Keys, that's really the essence. What's your attitude towards life, right? Are you choosing?
Yeah.
And I think, we can say, oh, I have a certain destiny, but in every single moment, you get to choose. Do I tap into the non-blaming, like a attitude of like, okay, well, how can I grow here? What is the positive, even though it's challenging? Or I can fall into the, well, life is happening to me. I'm a victim, right? And hence we're going to create a whole different reality.
Yeah.
With that. Yeah.
The thing I love about the Gene Keys, by the way, is it doesn't even matter if you're looking at the right profile or not, because the lessons in the Gene Keys are so relevant to everybody.
Yeah.
That if you just think about taking that genetic code within you and shifting it into a higher expression or a more free expression, or one that's more based on your own individuated nature or transcendental nature, life will improve.
Yeah.
Life will be much more beautiful.
Yeah. And actually, it was the Gene Keys that helped me also, I think, to see this whole cosmic, true sidereal version now of human design so lightly, because Richard Rudd says, right, in the end, well, the biggest joke of all is that all 64 Gene Keys apply to all of us. And even without any kind of profile, you can, like you say, change your life, because it's universal wisdom. It's the 65 hexagrams from the I Ching. I also find a lot what I'm learning in Kabbalah. I find it all in the Gene Keys. It's just in different forms how we bring it into the world. And with that is also what I love with the Gene Keys is there are no types like we have in human design. Because while I love the types, there's wisdom for all of us. I like to call them more archetypes by now. It is so quickly that a type can change, right? Just with one gate. I mean, you being a reflector, like one gate and you're a generator or a projector or a manifestor, just like that, right? So, because I mean, you probably know this in human design. Sometimes I see people really get caught up into this like very like limited view of thinking.
Oh,
You're like, oh. And
yes.
that is, it's, I think we also have to experience that, because I saw many times, maybe more often than not, that people actually use their human design against them. It's like, well, but what do you think? Because I'm this type, I think I can't do this because of this gate, or because I'm this, or I'm that, or I'm a manifestor and I'm just repelling everyone. I'm like, hold on, stop. So that's where I was like, okay, we really have to look at this a little bit more lightly. And even now playing with the different astrology versions behind the human design, I mean, so quickly you just change the degree slightly. Well, you're a manifestor and now you're a manifesting generator, and like, does your whole aura change? Well, I don't know. It really gets us out of this black or white thinking and more into like, okay, it can be this and this, and it can be everything, and you're just like a blend. And whatever resonates with you at some point in your journey, like you say, you know, I can pull from the projector archetype, and now I can pull from a different archetype. And so for me, it has become also, like you said, it's freedom. You have the freedom to choose which human design type resonates with you, which human design chart you resonate with, right? And it's not this like, oh, you're this and you're in a box stuck and you cannot get out of it.
I have a story that I want to share. It's a bit controversial. But I studied Ra's encounter with the voice in 1987. And the
Mm.
woman that taught me human design, she was there pretty much since the beginning. And she watched human design change. And there's some very important things she told me that I will always remember, because these are fatal flaws with the way that it gets carried forward today, especially now that Ra Uru Hu has passed. So in 1987, the voice never told him which type of astrology to use. That was never actually specified. He
Mm.
assumed it was
Mm.
tropical. But the other thing was, he was so freaked out after the experience that he went and he burned his first set of notes.
Wow.
And it wasn't until 1992, when he wrote the Black Book, that he actually encoded things. And if you read the Black Book, there's no types. He doesn't talk about
Yeah,
profiles.
I heard. Yeah.
Mhm. It's only that if you have a channel defined, that's where energy flows. It's an electromagnetic thing you can rely on. If you have a hanging gate, it's reaching for that energy to flow to be connected. It wasn't until later, about 1997 or 1998, that it changed. And let's face it, this is what my friend told me, and I can also see this in the way that human design operates today, is that he didn't want to just give the information freely. He did in 1992. In the Black Book, he says, make whatever you want with it. You can use it. And there's been court cases where people have taken human design and changed it. They've been sued, and they're like, actually, he said you can do whatever you want with it. So go for it.
Mm.
But he needed to make money. You know, he had two families. He needed to pay the bills. Every right to the guy. He had an experience, but he turned it into a business. And in 1997, he wanted to scale that business, and he wanted to make it more accessible to people. So that's when he started to talk about types. And when he started to talk about types, that's where something came in that wasn't in the original encoding. And not only that, but him as an individual, he's very intense in his wording. You know, he took the original I Ching, no filtration, didn't change it, and the words can be very cryptic, or they can be very like intense. And he also says no choice. There's no choice. You are your mechanics. You are either yourself or you're not self. And if you take another perspective, that's completely untrue. And that's why him and Richard Rudd disagreed. And Richard Rudd was essentially excommunicated and went and made the gene keys. I more lean on Richard Rudd's side, because I believe everything's a frequency. Even an astrologer, it was an evolutionary astrologer, which says this placement could be this at this level. It could be this at this level. It could be something completely different if you're operating at a higher frequency. So essentially, what this all is saying is that human design changed, and it kind of got influenced by Ra Uru Hu's personality, and that gets carried forward today as, gospel truth. And so it's important to
Mm.
look at this as being an experiment again, and that being an experiment that, might need to be adjusted for our own individual uses. And when people start doing things like what you're doing, and experimenting and exploring and trying out different things with them, they find something that fits for them. Generally, when people stick with it and they use it exactly as it was encoded, it doesn't quite fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you so much for sharing this stuff, because I had heard, and there's another website, I actually shared it on one of my YouTube videos, a guy that also uses human design without the types, and also he had his disagreements with Ra, I think. And I think I also learned, so yeah, I learned that there were no types in the beginning, and this whole thing about turning it into a business. And I want to also share something with you. I kind of also hear your take on it, because I see this today still. And I honestly, I had to unfollow everyone on Instagram recently, because I get still influenced easily, like, oh, they said this and this. And I really am on a path right now. I have to really lean in my own truth.
mhm.
Not saying that's the universal truth, but I have to stand for what feels right to me. There's a reason for that. And the one thing that just sits not well with me is when we use human design so strictly with those types, right? Because it's very much taught, especially in this, like, I'm gonna call it hyped up business coaching. I see this everywhere, and it gives me the Uzis because I think yesterday I saw an ad was like, oh, you're a generator, and here's like your $1 million map, how you can tap into your human design. And I wanna I think it's out of integrity to do that. If you ask me, I also don't want to judge in some way, but oh, you just have to like tune into the energy of your gates and you're gonna make $1 million. It's there is this just like business thinking behind. And I even asked myself at some point because I was on the verge sometimes, oh, I'm just gonna focus on one type, but something within me was always like, no, I can't. It doesn't feel right. And now I know because once I found the true sidereal, I'm like, gosh, I'm so happy I never like just focused on one type because now I understand. And I would probably make more money if I would totally like push something like, because people want to know the answer, right? People want to know there's
They
this
want
one
certainty.
way. Yeah, they
They
want
want certainty.
certainty. And the types and this box and stuff gives people an illusion of certainty. And I, to me, it's wrong. And I don't want to do that.
The woman that I was referencing, who was there from early on, and she's studied this her whole life, or her whole adult life, I should say. And we've had many discussions, but she's basically said the types are there to make you happy in the matrix.
Mm.
That's what they will do. They will make you happy because it's an identity, and we can choose an identity. There's been times where I know people who have read the wrong astrology chart. An astrologer got the birthday wrong or something like that. They read the wrong chart and they started identifying like that feels exactly like me. It's
Yeah.
actually, we're quite malleable. And if there's a system that'll tell us who we are, we'll start believing it. And
Mm-hmm.
that is where the dangerous part is that you're referring to. And that's where the part is that's out of integrity. For me, when I came across True Sidereal, I didn't just go to the Cosmic Human Design website or Trust Genetic Matrix. And I went and I downloaded the ephemeris from Athens, and I basically took 100 years worth of data printed out and I compared the two. And I said, okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
This is accurate enough because I do not want to get an astrological calculation wrong for somebody. And even when I prepare reports, one of the services I offer with Trifecta is I prepare reports for people. And I have a double redundancy. There's two people checking that report because I need to make sure every single placement in there is as accurate as possible because people are going to identify with it. And so I need to give them something which I feel is a reflection of where those precise placements are. And I even tell them, I'm like, at some point, you might not even feel you need a chart at all, and you might go and define yourself. This will just get you to the next bus stop that you want to go to.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Because I noticed when I pulled my True Sidereal Human Design chart that there were some parts in my tropical human design that I had over-identified with.
Mm-hmm.
And even unconsciously, I put myself a little bit in a box. So it was a beautiful experiment to realize that. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, hold on. Because the 2-4 somehow disempowered me a little bit. I noticed that in
Mm-hmm.
some areas. And that's why I love what you share because yeah, I'm not the only one. I think that has that experience. And I also most recently I have been saying I think at some point you transcend your chart or any kind of chart, because we are not here to over obsess about it, I think, for the rest of our life, right? It's here for a very specific purpose. And I'm so
Yes.
grateful for it because it's being a business owner, it really helped me from trying to follow everybody like a blind chicken, and like, oh, they have the system, they have the map, to actually trusting myself. That's a big message of human design, right? Get
Yes.
out of your head, drop into your body and trust yourself. And I think there's tons of people out there that teach the same thing, but they're not using human design, you know? And you and I and lots of people we connect with, we just have a thing. There's something there that human design really helps us get something to realize about ourselves that's super valuable. And yeah, then step into different versions of our charts and see it in a very flexible and light way, but not as this is the one way and you have to obey to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that I see it is, especially when I was in studying Hinduism, is that there's essentially three different pathways for people to find truth or self-knowledge. One
Mm.
is through the body, and these are generally people who are very attracted to somatic experiences. One is through the heart. It's like devotion and bhakti and faith and, you
Mm.
know, music festivals and that type of thing. And some people are through the mind. I'm through the mind. And generally, people attracted to charts and wanting to know and they want to go into detail. They're people whose pathway to knowing is going to be somewhat intellectual. And so we do want, the mind is a very powerful gatekeeper and it won't just allow us to feel. It needs that level of like, okay, I can buy into that first. And so that's where a chart can be helpful. It
Mm.
gets the door open and then the mind begins to trust the body. And when the mind trusts the body and just lets the body kind of realize things that can't be found in charts or can't be found in words, then we're at that place. But yes, it's a blessing and a curse. It's a
Yeah.
blessing because we can go to somebody we trust, get a chart reading, and get a lot of great information there. And when the mind does identify with that chart, it can be a very strong thing and it can allow us to will our way and to create foundations and structures in our lives that actually serve our inner authority.
Mm. Yeah, so powerful. So I would love to hear your experience or experimentation with moving from a reflector to, I think it's a 4-6 generator. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. I mean,
So how was that for you?
that was one of those things, I've heard a lot of people and I've done numerous readings. I have a little app. I think there's a free thing where I get your core wound for free. It's your Chiron reading in True Sidereal.
Mm.
You can share it, but I've done a lot of those. So I've done probably close to 1,000 of those. And then I've done reports for people close to 200 now. And one of the things I hear a lot from people is, I love this. It feels like me, but I can't let go of the fact that I was a this.
Mm.
And for me, it was like I was a reflector 1-3 with, led by the gate 61. So I'm like, oh, I'm this cool, like esoteric occult reflector. And like I've got the codes and the mysteries and all this kind of stuff. And then boom, 4-6 generators. Like that's like Donald Trump or something, just like a loudmouth, It's like the led by the channel 26, which is egoism. And I'm
Mm.
like, is there something here? And I'm like, yes, there's something here. So I went from the rarest type to the most common type, and I went from the cool mystical version into a loud marketer, basically.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I can actually make peace with that. And actually, it feels good. That feels right. There's something to this that is actually very necessary. And it allowed me to kind of take on a leadership mantle and allowed me to feel good about that and to become more visible and
Mm.
step out of the sort of the occult, little mystery cave of my own and into more of a prominent role in a public role.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, gate 26 is a jinky 26. Like you have to be comfortable selling and love selling, right? That's what this
I
energy.
love artfulness. Like
Yeah.
that word is just like, because I'm a musician as well. I work with video. I love multimedia. I love writing. So when I create things for my business, for instance, I will make it look very beautiful and enticing, and I'll make it like an experience for people. It won't just be like, writing copy or whatever. It's like, come on a journey with me. And a
Mm.
lot of the times the best things that I've done in business have been like I made a musical rendition of the major arcana in the tarot, or recently like I did a video on neutrinos that's like I made the music for it and everything and I like, I scored it. So I'm having a lot of fun with YouTube right now and like making like these sort of multimedia videos because that brings forth the artfulness and it allows me to use my voice in uh like an actor almost or like a voice actor in a way. And I get to play around with that. And that's the beauty that I found in it. If you look at the human design definition of gate 26, it's like you're going to be an arrogant a-hole.
Yeah, I mean in the shadow, right? That's yeah, I
There's
think.
nothing nice I've read in the Ray V Ching about that particular gate.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some games that have more like a negative twist on it. That's why I also love Karen Parker's take on the quantum human design because she puts it in a, yeah, more higher frequency vibe. But then, yeah, definitely the Jinkies. I also love the visionary I Ching. I have also found pretty
Mm,
incredible. It's also a guy, he has a really amazing story. Paul O'Brien is his name. So that's also really cool to see how people take it and they put their own twist on it, you know?
yeah.
So I really love that. Wonderful. So Yeah, thank you for sharing your story with that. I think that's so incredible. I want to know now, so you have something called Trifecta. So
Hmm.
tell us a little bit about that.
Trifecta, it does away with charts altogether. It's basically my own journey that came to me last year. I had a sort of a, I hate to say mystical experience, but when that whole thing I told you at the beginning happened, there was a period of about 3 months that was just information coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a journey. And it's a journey through the seven major planets plus Chiron plus the nodes, and it's laid out like a journey, so there's no chart. It's like you read it and you basically begin to embody it, but it's very close to the hologenetic profile. It's just completely different placements. And it focuses on three major areas. So the core wound isn't just design Mars. The core wound is actually the design moon, your memory bank, your deep-seated emotions, and Chiron, because it's your collective wound. So the core wound is this multifaceted thing, and when you rebalance that, the collective stops weighing in on you. And especially now, probably in the last month or so, you may or may not have heard, but there's a lot happening in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when you can actually resolve the core wound, especially the collective wound, it doesn't hit you in the same way anymore. You're able to still navigate. And the second part is the life path. So I really work with the incarnation cross, the sun, the nodes, the earth placement. And then the final one is prosperity, which has to do with Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury. And basically, when you take that journey in those three steps and in that order, what ends up happening is you clear out the wreckage, you clear out the distortions, you align with who, that solid sovereign person is inside of you, and then you're able to magnetize what you need. But the chart is just the starting of it. The other thing I've done that's quite interesting is I've taken the frequency of each of the planets based on their orbit around the sun, turned it into a musical note, and created what I call quantum leaping tracks so that you actually get to go through a track. It's almost like a meditation, but I do it with neural entrainment, so binaural beats, the frequency of the planet, and then guided exploration of it. It's about 20 minutes long per placement, but you actually get to go and you can actually shift it on a quantum level, or you do it in a state of deep relaxation and deep hypnosis.
Love that.
So it's a way of using contemplation very intentionally. And I've come from a music background. And one of the most interesting things I found was that the orbit of the planets, so, Neptune goes around the sun in, I think, 187 years. But if you multiply that by two, you find a harmonic of it that's a sound frequency. And I've
Mm-hmm.
worked with this for enough years to know that the Neptune frequency and the moon frequency and the Mars frequency, they carry the archetype of that planet with them. And so when you use that, and again, this is the artfulness coming, you use that with the guided meditation and the neural entrainment, it's like it's a multimedia meditation that you really go deep and you're able to really access that place inside of you to actually connect with that theme. And so for me, that's the way I see it, because I'm much more in the Richard Rudd camp where you really need to contemplate these and you really need to live them
Mm.
and understand them for yourself.
Yeah, I have had the same experience, and I'm also Richard Radcamp. He's amazing. And just this like gentleness and slowness and really taking your time, not rushing anything. And I really find that the big aha moments come when I'm not looking for it, when I'm deeply relaxed
Yeah.
and like that. So definitely. So there's a funny thing because I had a peek at both of your charts before we got on. And one funny coincidence, we have the same core wound in our tropical and also the same core wound in our true sidereal. So it's the 40 in the tropical and the 33 in the true sidereal. Is that right? Do I get that right?
With that, we're talking about the design Mars.
Yeah, I'm talking the
Okay.
not the Chiron right now
Not
because
the
I
Chiron. Yeah.
also look at I always felt like because with astrology Chiron has to do right with the core
Mm.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking right now about the design Mars. So I would love your take on both of these gene keys.
Mm.
Your experience has been with that.
Yeah. I mean, the 40, I kind of got that. I mean, that is part of the cross that's in play right now. It's being used by larger institutions. And that's how I felt in my corporate life. I felt like I had so many gifts and so much to give. And it was just kind of being used by an institution that never cared about me. So for me, it was like I was kind of half checked out the whole time. Um, but the 33, I think, is even more. interesting for me because that has to do with forgetting mindfulness, right? And that forgetting is something that the core wound really comes up in my professional life, by the way, I'll say that.
Mm.
Because when I forget, I'm very good at getting excited about things and going forward with things. But when I do things that don't involve increasing mindfulness, because I can go and I can write marketing copy or design landing pages, and I can get kind of swayed by, oh, I want to go work on this exciting project. But if it doesn't bring me to a state of mindfulness, it's like in the end, it's not going to work out.
Mm.
And 33 is a very interesting one as well, because the deeper thing is that it's about purifying the samskaras,
Yeah.
right? So it's a very past life type of thing, because these are like past life interactions. It's the residues of relationship matter that we carry with us. So the imprint of an ex-lover who then we carry into the next relationship, and we tend to then project everything through the lens of that residue with the person that we're interfacing with, right? Or whenever you hear like, oh, you remind me of this person, it's like that's a pretty good indicator there's a samskara happening. And
Mm.
so for me, to not repeat the same mistakes with people, to not just blindly trust the same people, the same type of people that give the same yellow flags and the same red flags, it's good to take that time away. That time of privacy. Privacy is, I think, the key word that goes with gate 33. And I've noticed I do best when I'm about 50% on my own and 50% engaging with other people.
Yeah, definitely. Before it was my 2-4 profile, and then it became also, we see those same themes, I think, in so many different elements of the line
Yeah.
and the gates and the channels and all of that stuff. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love
It's
it.
it's always interesting too, because like I've ran the trifecta, I've ran for tropical, but it's designed for true sidereal.
Mm.
Um, but I ran it for tropical, and it's funny that like the 21-degree difference, it's like you always get a gene key showing up that is similar. Like there's a similar theme in that placement.
Mhm.
So
I mean, even in the charts, right? There are similar themes. Like, I think you were talking, I mean, you have gate 45 in your conscious sun, it's in your tropical, I think your north node unconscious or something like that. So I
mm,
find with so many people, like even myself, like something like a theme I saw in my tropical chart, I find it also in my true sidereal, but like a little bit amplified in a different placement, so to say.
yeah.
So it was like more hidden, I feel like, in the tropical chart. And now it's like, really, hello, you
Hmm.
know. So if you were gonna give some piece of wisdom to the people that are listening right now, because I can imagine some people are like, oh my God, I'm confused now, or like, what is right or wrong? Human design, yes or no, cosmic, trifecta.
Mm.
What would you say?
Well, I would obviously say, you know, people need to really listen to their heart.
Yeah, I was,
That's
I
the
was like,
as cheesy as that is, it's like, what is drawing you? What's calling to you
yeah.
right now? Because I tell you, when I had my first human design reading, I actually put human design aside for a while, and I went back to astrology, and I stuck with astrology for 3 years, and then human design popped up again, and then I went deep into human design. Then I went deep into gene keys, and I knew that they all fit together somehow. But my initial attempt 4 years ago didn't lead me to anything, so I put it all aside. And then I kind of allowed my own inspiration to take me back into it. What I will say, though, is that whatever you choose can be a powerful pathway to self knowledge. But like a jacket, be ready to take it off when you're done,
Mm.
and realize that like none of this stuff is forever. And that all of these systems, every astrological system, has changed so much over time as we've evolved. I mean, in 1781, they discovered Uranus. I think in 1854, they discovered Neptune. In 1932, they discovered Pluto, and astrology changed. And then sometime in the 20th century, they said, well, we're going to do Western astrology, but through the lens of the sidereal zodiac. And now they're saying, we're going to do Western astrology with all the planets. We're going to include Chiron, which was discovered in 1971, into the picture too. And we're going to do it with the actual constellation boundaries that NASA just mapped 30 years ago. So you can see that the whole thing's evolving. Let it evolve, let it change. I
Mm.
think the only problem people could ever run into is when they get fixated on one thing and they say, this is the way to the truth.
Yeah, thank you. I love it. Yeah, and it's also because I think that's we assume like, well, this is what it is, or even with human design, that's what Ra said. And but like you say, everything is changing. And this brings me to, I mean, what you just shared was Gene Key 13 for me and 35, because the only concept we have is change.
Yeah.
Right? And like we said earlier, we have this, we want certainty, we want this is what it is, and this is the answer, right? And then Gene Key 13, I think Richard Rudd says it in there. Well, everything is about listening to your heart at the end of the day.
Right.
All these different modalities, right? Like once you really listen to your heart, you don't need any of this stuff. So I was like, yes, so true. And that's my conscious
That's,
plan in the tropicals. That's why I'm,
yeah, back to 13. I love 13 because 13 is all about discernment. That's the gift of 13,
yeah,
right? And so it is about it's listening, but it's being able to listen and discern what's right for you.
yeah.
You know, another
Which
amazing thing is, yeah, if you only ever speak in what's right for you at a certain time and you compete with yourself, you don't compete with other people, you compete with
Mhm.
yourself, you'll find that there's an ongoing process of refinement. You know, and the beautiful part about the gift, you know, the way that I see it is basically when energy hits us, there's three pathways. There's the repressive pathway, the reactive pathway, and then there's actual aligning with it. And if you walk that alignment with something, it will fill your cup. And when your cup can no longer be filled, it overflows and you naturally want to unite with everything else again. And that's where the frequency goes even higher. And so that's when even something like discernment breaks down and discernment yields into actual empathy, the actual ability to completely dissolve the individuated self to exist as another human being.
Mm.
And, you know, I've gotten tastes. I think we've all had tastes of those moments when we're in connection with somebody.
Yeah.
And we can see that, you know, these truths are, they're right for a certain time and a certain place and a certain state of being, but they're not right all the time for everybody in all frequency settings.
Yeah, it's so true. That's what I find over and over, like to tell people like, well, just because this is my journey, it doesn't have to be yours, right? Just because
Yeah.
I now am into this true sidereal version of human design, like if you want to do tropical, please. I mean, I was doing it for 4 years. We are on our unique journeys, right?
And I will do tropical readings with somebody. I'll listen to them where they're at and
Yeah.
I'll say, okay, what do they need right now? And I'll give them that. And if they're at a certain point in the tropical human design reading, I did this a month ago for somebody. I did tropical human design, didn't even mention anything beyond that because that's perfectly exactly what this person needed to hear. That's it.
Mm. Yeah. Beautiful. I
And
love.
yeah. And so it's only really when we judge things or when we say this is right and this is wrong. I get a lot of people that come to me and they say, my normal human design didn't work anymore. Or I've this feels like an older version of me. And then I'll open the door to something deeper.
Mm. Yeah, exactly, right? When they feel like I'm ready for the next level of expansion or something feels off. And yeah, exactly. So I love that. Beautiful. So thank you for all your wisdom. So where can people find you? What's the best way to reach out and
The
do
best way is just to try my free 3 day journey. You get your collective wound placement. You'll also get one of those meditations tuned to Chiron that I was telling you about. That's the best way to do it, really. If you can include a link to that below, that would be amazing.
Mhm.
That's the best way because I use my newsletter, and then you'll also be subscribed to my newsletter. I don't send mass newsletters, maybe one or two a week. But in the newsletter, I also let people know about the YouTube videos that I create as well. And so it's the way that I feel it's the most personal connection. And that's the way that I like to work. You know, I've been through the whole, you know, building my business up, that whole thing. The thing that's worked the best for me is having that personal touch with people. So giving that, you can try it out. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. No risk to you. But if you do like it, you'll be brought into this world of creations and artfulness that I like to do, which is, you know, True Sidereal is a part of it, but it's also just the beauty of life and the beauty of creativity and the beauty of spontaneity. So that's all part of the journey. And really what I'm here to do is just basically be a sign holder for, will this help you find, your path back to total coherence and fulfillment?
Yeah, I mean that's what we do, right? That's what it's all about. If whatever
Yeah.
we teach and guide you helps you trust yourself and really do your own thing, that's what we want. I mean, that's really what I had this vision when I first learned about human design, that it's like a puzzle. Everybody has their own unique puzzle piece. And if I'm trying to be like you, this is not going to be great,
No,
because I'm not going to be
exactly.
me. So that's
Yeah.
really what this all thing is about, to you appreciate how we're different. It's called the science of differentiation, right? And
Well, I was super excited and impressed when I saw one of your videos that had the SVP thing that you calculated. And I'm like, she's contributed. Yes, amazing. She's contributed something to this. And
yeah,
if people can see that we're all contributing to self-knowledge in one way or another.
yeah, we're all part of this and evolving, and it's changing, and
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna put, it's the core wounding calculator, right? Is that what you're
that's
referring
right.
to? Okay, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna put it in the show notes for sure, and also your Instagram, your website, and all that good stuff. So thank you so much, David. This was a
Thank you.
super fun, even for me, like that I get to learn a couple of new things. And I just love to hear this, because when I first embarked on this journey, I felt a little bit like, oh, what am I doing here? But I had to follow my heart, you know?
Mm.
And it's so funny how now I know so many other people that are like, yeah, I have been doing this for a while too. And, just this relaxed conversation about it. We're not here to pull you in one or the other camp. It's an experiment, guys. Let's have fun. Let's enjoy the journey, and may it serve you. So again, thank you so much from the bottom of my
You're
heart.
so welcome.
And you listeners, thank you as always for listening. And I'll see you on the next episode.